generally I would look at back in the springtime, 60 or so actions a day. You know, I get a battle report from the Army that they had 60 incidents, either offensive or defensive incidents. We're up to 211. That's just with U.S. forces and NATO forces. The Marine Corps U.S. forces. The Marines in Southwest can't do their own count. They're up in the 50 to 60 range. So we're 5 or 6 times the level of activity of last spring. Now the enemy has been telling their forces for the past year that they're winning and the Americans are leaving. And we're starting to get sensing back that the run-of-the-mill Taliban's a little ticked off at their leadership, who's been telling them they're winning and the Americans are leaving. Then they find out not only are we not leaving, we're sending more and we're taking it to the enemy. Because that 211 actions I talked about, 90% of them were offensive. That's our folks going out and taking action. So the good news is we're starting to get reflections from the adversaries that they're very distressed with this and starting to look for alternatives. We have a program we're trying to convince the Afghans and our allies that we need to put some energy into. It's called reintegration. If you've got 10 Taliban walking along the street, 2 of them are, you know, statistically speaking, 2 of them are probably dyed in the wool, never going to change their mind, they're always going to be hardline Taliban. You're not going to convince them otherwise. At the other end of the spectrum are the 2 kids at the end of the line. They were just minding their own business in the hometown when the Taliban came through, grabbed the 2 of them and said, hey, pick up those packs, they're coming with us. Their alternative was get shot or go with them. So they go with them. They're not really Taliban, they're not card-carrying members, they're not fighters, they're just lugging these packs along because they were told to do it. First opportunity, they'll filter away in the night and go back home to their valley. So I come along to the big bold American airman with my weapons. I see 10 Taliban, every drop bomb killed a 10. Tactical victory. Those are 10 Taliban our ground forces will not have to fight. For the 2 at the lead of the pack, that's a good thing, because we were never going to convince them to change their minds. But those 2 kids at the end of the line, they weren't a serious threat. Their families now will hate America for all eternity because Afghans don't forget. And so in winning a tactical victory, I've made a strategic blunder in that I now have created a well of resentment and hatred towards the Americans that it'll take years and years and centuries to get over. So instead of going after the 10, what we want to do is part the ways. We want to take those 2 at the front of the line. We want to drive them off into the hills, kill them, capture them, or drive them off into the hills, let them go live in a cave. We want to take the remaining 8, the 2 kids, send them home, go back to your, get out of here, go back home. The middle 6, they're fighters. And the Afghans have been fighting for centuries. They're very good at it. They sit on the passageway for invading armies from the east and the west, and so they've had to fight for centuries. They're very good at fighting. They know this terrain. So when they're not farming, when the farm's not producing enough to feed the family, or the crop's in and there's nothing to do, they got to feed the family. They'll pick up a rifle and go fight. They'll go fight for the Taliban because Taliban pays. We call it the $10 Taliban. So if I can take those 6 and convince them that, hey, this is not going to end well for you. Your family is going to ultimately lose out on a breadwinner. But I'm offering you the opportunity to go back home. We'll call it even. Go back to society. Don't pick up a rifle and fight against the government again. And after time, all will be forgiven. So the reintegration program actually says we have a way to go back to their village elder or their mullah or whoever the power center is where their home is, and say, hey, I promise, I won't go back and fight for the Taliban again. I want to stay home. In the meantime, we'll give them some vocational training. We'll help them figure out how to feed their family without just going fighting against the government. And after a year or whatever the appropriate amount of time is, if they behave themselves and not violated that parole, then all is free and clear and they're done. It's all over. We won't worry about that. Now, if they did something criminal, if they participated in an IHD strikes, something for which they need to be held accountable, there's a way to deal with that. rather than just sending them off into the hills and the caves with those other two. Once we've narrowed the problem down to the two hardcore Taliban, driven them off into the hills, captured or killed them, the Afghan government can deal with that size problem. They can't deal with the 10, but they can deal with the 2. So this fundamental coin fight is to try and whittle them down by getting the populace to see that fighting is not the right answer, that the government can protect us, provide stability, security, and a way to feed our families and live a secure, stable life. Put our trust in the government and then tell the Taliban to get out of town. I guarantee if you go downtown, they know who are the outsiders are. They know who doesn't live in this valley, who's not from this town. They know the Taliban in a heartbeat. But they're not going to tell us because we only stick around in the daytime. We go back to the FOBs at night. The Taliban's in town at nighttime. That's when the trouble starts. So until we can provide them stability, security, 24/7, 365, we or the government, the populace is not going to tell the Taliban to leave. They're going to kind of play the middle of the road and wait to see who wins. So coin is a slow process. It's winning the confidence, the hearts and minds of that old phrase. It's convincing them that the government is going to provide for them stability and security. Then they will tell the Taliban to get out of town, go live in the cave. That process takes time. You all are part of the winning the hearts and minds, convincing them that this peaceful living within the societal structure or process is preferable than to fighting against the government, picking up arms and trying to take what you need as opposed to earn it or otherwise provide within normal societal needs. But anyway, the only way we're leaving here, we, America, we, NATO, we the non-Afghans, is if you all are successful. Because ultimately it will be the populace who decides that the government is the right answer, not the Taliban. And they're only going to decide that if they're stable and secure. And the mechanism for getting there is the very things that you are engaged in doing. Helping them build their infrastructure, helping them build their society to a point where they can trust the government, they can trust those societal structures around them to provide for their needs. So I applaud what you're doing. It's a very unique thing. When you look back on your career compared to some other airman who's just marched along the standard path, this will stand out for you as a very unique time. And so I applaud you for being here. I know you're all volunteers and you'll come back many times. But in any case, even if this is the only year you spend over here, I guarantee you this will be special. So anyway, with that, I'd rather talk about what you're actually interested in hearing and not politely listening to. So who's got a question? Go ahead.
Sorry, Benjamin from Langley Air Force Base. Africa, spin up. How long do you think it will take for Africa to be developed like Iraq or Afghanistan?
Well, AFRICOM is an interesting question. AFRICOM is not going to, really the question, the two don't equate. AFRICOM is not going to build up like Iraq. Now, do you mean AFRICOM build up like USFI, the U.S. structure within? I don't foresee us ever doing that. The Africans have no interest in large concentrations of foreign military, have no interest in well, the mechanism to put us in Iraq doesn't exist in Africa at the moment. In other words, there is no threat to world stability such that we have to go invade someplace and oust some bad guy. There are plenty of bad guys.